This is a big honor for me. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, we have, well, we'll start off with Susanna McCann. Hi, Susanna. How are you?
I'm Paul.
Great. That's super. And then we have the youngster, Robert McCann. Hi, Robert. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
That's really good.
Looking forward to our conversation.
Well, you're a living legend, I will say, and in the world of world peace and in Good Samaritan uh, are you having a good time overall?
Are you asking if we're having a good time?
Yes. Are you having a good time in life?
I'm enjoying life and finding a lot of interest in recalling things, pulling them up out of my past and sharing them, and realizing that I lived in a different era from most of the people of today, and there are things from that era that will be helpful to share.
The brilliance. That's marvelous. That's wonderful. I have something that says here, destiny, our global community, sustainable, peaceful, just by John L.McCan. What is that?
Yes. My book will be published on the 30th of this month. Here is the copy that I have now to use to go through it.
Okay.
And Tom is helping me get the message out about the book and about the message.
It says here, the purpose of this book is to help readers reimagine the world we want to create and then inspire commitment to achieve it. Okay. The world is, I don't know, has the world changed? I mean, you have a few years on me. Do you think it's changed drastically for the better or for the worst?
I think it depends on whether you have a short-term perspective or a long-term perspective. If you look at the sweep of history and see how the world has grown in its love for peace and its realization that there's no answer except for peaceful coexistence, and look at the sweep of history, more and more people are realizing that peace is the answer. And so I'm optimistic, and I think there are ways that we can move forward that will promote peace and build a peaceful world.
So when Tom brought this, and Tom is magnificent, I love Tom. I brought us together here, and Susanna, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts as well. And so, I mean, peace is I've dedicated my life to this subject of world peace, and our company, Good News Corporation, nonprofit, has for 20 years plus since 2002 been doing the International Day of Peace concert in Central Park. I've been the host and producer, as well as here in Times Square. And we actually worked hard and actually even doing business as a pause the world for peace, because I think that we need a pause in this today's reality of the way I'm seeing it out there, which is a little frenetic. And we don't need, maybe it's fanaticism is making it frenetic. I don't know what's happening, but it seems a little more concerning for me at 73 than it has ever been. How are we going to So I wanted to stop the world. There was a guy named Maurice Strong. I don't know if you knew him. Maurice was a consultant to Kofi Annan in the UN, and he was from Canada. And I said, I want to stop the world, but I want to, there's that song, Stop the World. I want to get off, but I want to stop the world and I want to stay on because I like Mother Earth. I show this all the time. This is Mother Earth from the moon. This is NASA. We're all on here. And if you pay taxes, you paid for my card. This is my business card. In any case, I want us to hug and love each other and just calm down. We're lucky to be breathing. There's no need for, I mean, once we divided this place into countries, it seems to have had good, and it has bad. Because I'm from USA, I'm American, and you're from somewhere else, but you're not from somewhere else. You're from here. We're all from here. How do we, all right, destiny. All right. So what do you feel in your book? Because you're a
The
smart one.
cover of the book is taken from the photos taken by the astronauts when they looked down from the moon to the Earth and saw Earth down here and the great canopy of stars above them. And as the Earth came into view and lighted with ephemeral light, they looked down and saw the rivers and the oceans touching each other, and they saw a single world. And they said, from up here, 230,000 miles away, it really is one Earth. There are no nations. It's a people of Earth trying to survive as a single people.
I'm inviting you right now to two things that we're doing coming up. Okay, I want to talk more about your book, but you're just so important to me and important to the world. We have an event, a press conference on March 22nd at 12 noon. It starts off actually with Ringo Starr saying a moment of silence for world peace, because he's one of the peace messengers of the United Nations. And we're going to have a press conference to announce it's World Water Day, of which we helped create, my associate Phil Sowers, at the United Nations, because no water, no life. Kind of too much water, maybe no life either. So this announces our upcoming then Earth Day, and we have Times Square, and I do a big concert in Times Square, 5-hour live worldwide broadcast. Okay, and so I want to ask you to say a few words at both of those places, if we can so work it out after. So I'm just throwing that out right now because I see that you have a wealth of wisdom.
Get my hearing aid for me.
Of a wealth of wisdom to share here. So let's talk about the book, okay? So tell me, how did you break up the book? I mean, you wrote a whole book on destiny. How did you go about, and what do you mean by destiny? Whose destiny? My destiny? Your destiny? Susanna's
Human destiny.
Human destiny. Okay.
I mean, human destiny.
All right. What's our destiny?
I say in the book that we have to do a fundamental reorientation of our thinking, and we have to move from thinking in terms of nations and self-interest and tribes to thinking of being a single people. At the beginning of the book, I talk about my great affirmation. It's a single page. And when I started to write the book 4 years ago, I put down in a single page my beliefs. And during the course of my life, I taught many times courses for people on what I believe. And I tried to help each person over time to think through what their fundamental beliefs, most deep, personal, powerful beliefs are. And I found that to be very helpful. So I decided it was time for me to rethink my own beliefs. And I came up with this, if I could read a page here. I'm a member of the family called human. My home is planet Earth. The achievements of humankind throughout the ages are my heritage. My highest priority is the common good. We choose to make war obsolete, nuclear weapons relics, as we embrace the thin membrane of atmosphere around planet Earth. Only as we lift others up, rather than tear them down, can our survival and destiny be realized. We created a global governing structure, United States of Earth, that makes Earth one, sustainable, justful, peaceful, just. Our destiny is bound to that of all humanity and the web of life on planet Earth. What we create together forms our bequest to the next 1,000 generations. So that was the page that I started with. The book is an amplification of that one page.
I'd be honored if you would read that at our press conference on Times Square. Exactly those exact words. It's better than I could ever state it, by far. And it's exactly how I want to state it. You're able to state it. So, Susanna, you lucky lady, because you know this guy, right?
Yes, I am very fortunate to have him as my dad.
Uh-huh. Okay. And what has he taught you in regard to like what we're talking about now?
Well, he has walked his talk, and it's been a long walk, and there have been many layers I've seen, sort of looking back on his life, working with him on his book. I basically do editing and publishing for him and his books. And he has not stopped, and so he's said he never wanted to retire. And so when he was superficially retired, after a long and illustrious career and doing all kinds of things, his thing was writing books. He showed up every day, he did the work, and he never lost sight of a sense of purpose and mission for having been born on this planet. And I think he transmitted that to me quite a bit. And also, I mean, when your child is 75 years old, then you know you're old, but he's been an inspiration to me to really develop elderhood, to cultivate and strengthen oneself as one goes into old age in order to be a genuine elder, which the world needs, rather than just another old person who feels, useless or something. So he's been a great inspiration to me. And we've been a good team working on his books.
We have been, and it's been a pleasure to have my daughter as my companion in this journey, and working together and being together in the process.
Oh God, this is so wonderful. This is good news personified. I'll say that. Well, let me ask you, Robert, and thank you, Susanna. Why peace? Why has this been a mission of yours? Where did this? Were you a Boy Scout? What happened here? How did you start your? Were you always wanting to share the beauty of Mother Earth and us beings, probably animals and plants also? I don't know, but where does your inspiration come from?
During World War II, I got into a U.S. Navy Reserve program and was put in a V-12 program, which meant that after 1 year of college, I was able to go to college for another year, but have military training at the same time I was going to college. And then after that, the plan was for me to get about 4 months of intensive officer training and be commissioned as a lower level officer and work on PT boats. That was where I was headed. But during that time, there was a call put out for anyone who planned to be a medical doctor or who planned to be a minister to apply for continuing education, going to medical school or going to theological school, because there was a great shortage of theologically trained persons and medically trained persons. So I applied for that program and was admitted to it. And I was just ready to go into Yale Divinity School for my theological training. And when out on the marching field one day at Great Lakes, the commander in charge made a strange announcement that he just got word that the war had ended. And so we were no longer in a world war. But I was sent on to school at Yale and was in the Navy there for 1 year while in school. But then I was released from chaplain training and continued on to get my degree. But during that time, I realized that I had escaped the battle. And I was most aware how so many of my friends and companions had, died in the cause of World War II. I felt guilty, but I asked myself, what can I do to redeem myself? And remembering words of Scripture, to whom much is given, much is required, I decided to dedicate my life to peacemaking and to conflict resolution and to getting to know the people of the enemy countries, because I knew they were friends at heart. And so I dedicated my life to that cause. At times I fairly more or less forgot about my dedication, but then things would jar me into the realization I had to move ahead with this life's work. And I have, since that time, worked. I, for example, established a peace college called Dag Hammarskjöld College, bringing together faculty and students from countries all over the world. And all of our students having an internship at the United Nations. It's the only college that's ever had that opportunity. And I'd be glad to share my experience about how that came about. But that's just one thing there. I helped establish the U.S. Institute of Peace, which is the national official organization for waging peace, sponsored by our government. I was deputy director of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in the Smithsonian, which brought together students and faculty, scholars from all over the world to study peace and goodwill and how to learn to live together, among other things. Those are just a few of the highlights.
And those are not little highlights. Those are major, major highlights. And in that, all I know is when I grow up, I want to be you. And so everything that you're saying to me is like just magnificent accomplishment of helping our people on Mother Earth to get closer together. I'll leave it like that.
In those early years, I was totally unaware of the issue with Mother Earth, but I would say as long as 40 years ago, I became very aware of the issue and have been mindful of it and working on it in small ways ever since, but more recently in more major ways.
Uh-huh.
And I have a chapter in the book
Oh.
specifically on global warming and how we can combat it and the most effective ways to do it and the absolute dangers ahead of us if we don't take it seriously.
Well, the good news here is that we are taking it seriously. All of us here are, and we probably know millions others. And I see, we like to go
Yes.
from the positive. My mother, when she was a librarian at Temple Emmanuel here in Manhattan, gave me Reverend Norman Vincent Peale's book, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I like to be a positive thinker. And I like it because I think it's real. And I think that, the more positive energy that we share in the world, the better we all feel. And the more we want to work together. A compliment goes a long way. Salt doesn't help on a as much. So, well, I'd like to make this part one. I'm very earnest in inviting you to our events, especially the International Day of Peace, which we've been doing for many years, on September 21st. And so you probably started that. Now that I think about it, it started in 1984 at the United Nations. That was the original time that they requested, and there wasn't 193 countries at the time, a day of peace. And then later on in 2002, a resolution occurred to reinvigorate the International Day of Peace. And I've accepted that day. I'm not an NGO. I didn't join the United Nations in that manner. I felt I want to be an outside contributor. I felt that I had more. It's just like I'm an interfaith minister also, so ordained minister. Okay, I like that ability to spiritual. I like to be. We do our thing. We're not like we don't join certain things because we believe in them and we want to support them and share the good that they're doing.
And there's a role for the insider who's working on it day after day from the inside.
Yes.
And another role for the outsider who's looking in and evaluating and being critical, but being constructive and supporting the cause. So we need both types.
You are justifying my life. I don't ever need to go to a therapist. I'm going to go to you. I'm going to get my family, my grandkids, everybody on the phone here. Say, listen, that really sees the way, because if there's no audience, I mean, the worker bees, they're doing their thing, just as you say. But if they're doing it to themselves, I think that some people say they're preaching to their own choir, But if there's outsiders who have really not engaged, are not involved, or maybe not even getting paid, say, and just say, what you're doing is good. and yeah, we're going to be part of it, then that's the audience. It's like television. If you have no audience, you really don't. You got a soliloquy. You're just speaking to yourself, your own people. So you're so wise. Your daddy is so wise.
Yes, true. I've had my own path, but he's been very supportive
Yes,
all the way along. Which so he's a good dad as well as a great person in his own right.
he didn't have to go to the theological school. He is he is the
Well,
theological school.
I think it he would give a lot of credit to theological school and his religious background. I think he would give a
I was a minister for 15 years
Oh,
before.
he actually did that. Oh, okay.
Yes, and I worked with Martin Luther King Jr. I worked in race relations while I was a minister, and met and got to know a bit firsthand Martin Luther King Jr. and also Martin Luther King Sr. I was a Southern Baptist. I was on the Christian Life Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention. Every year, Southern Baptists have a convention. About 10,000 people come. And we decided we wanted to have an African-American minister to speak to the convention and try to build better race relations and better feeling toward African-Americans. So we looked around and decided that Martin Luther King Sr. We ask him to be the speaker at the Southern Baptist Convention. He did a wonderful job, and I had the role of going with him and being with him until it was time for him to speak. So we went to the cafeteria and had coffee and talked for an hour together. And he told me about his son, Martin Luther Jr., whom I had not heard about until that time. But turns out he was 4 years younger than I was, but we both got our doctorates the same day. I got mine from Edinburgh at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and he got his from Boston University, which is the United Methodist Seminary in Boston. So we had things to talk about, and he did share with me, Martin Luther Jr. shared with me the vision of his movement. It so happened that we both spoke on a program at Vanderbilt University together, in a program on race relations, bringing together the white and black people of Tennessee, where this was I was in Clarksville, Tennessee, 30 miles from Nashville. And he told me about Rosa Parks refusing to go to the back of the bus, and starting a movement. And it was centered in his church in Montgomery. So every night, the African-American people would go to his church, and he would speak, and they would have a meeting to figure out how they were going to get everybody to work the next day when they weren't riding the bus. But he also decided he would go out and talk to groups across the country each day that he could, so that he would build support for what he was doing. And he knew that he needed to talk to the politicians, but he believed that talking to the ministers and the churches was his best hope. Excuse me. So in some cases that was true, and in other cases it wasn't, but told me about the strategy they were developing. He would get back every night on his plane trip in time for the meeting at 7:30 that night. And it soon came on national television. So every night when they would meet to plan and energize the people, it became a national event. Everybody watched it on television. And this was his plan for beginning to get the support and understanding he needed to pass the laws that would outlaw segregation. So I was privileged to have an inside perspective from Martin Luther Jr. King's own words.
Oh my God! Wow, this is beyond expectation. Thank you both very much, and we will talk again, and hopefully you'll join us. I only have a few minutes left because I this 40-minute Zoom thing. But I usually ask everybody, and if we could, in a short kind of way, what is peace for you? Susanna, what is peace for you?
I feel that peace comes from a holistic perspective. It's both inner and outer. It's on many different levels. One could consider it on many different levels. It's the end of every prayer in the Vedic tradition. Or every scripture verse, they say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti at the end, which is peace. And so it's a very deep aspiration for humankind. It's a balance and integration of opposite values. That's my perspective. Maybe it's a little bit abstract, but that's where I'm come from.
Om Shanti.
Grounded. Yes. Yeah.
Magnificent. Robert, peace for you. What is peace?
Peace is the end for which we strive, and yet it's moment by moment the way we live our lives and the way we think and act toward others. I get some of my personal vision from Jesus, who said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And from the Lord's Prayer, when Jesus prayed, and Peggy, my wife, and I pray this prayer every night together. When Jesus prayed, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I perceive from Jesus that the will of God for the people of earth is to live together in peace. And I believe that the only way to do this is by achieving justice and working for justice. I think it's personal. I think we all have to love peace and hate war with a passion, and say so out loud. I think peace is, we wage peace. It's not just passive, it's active peacemaking at every step along the way. And yet it's not possible without a political and a cultural and an ethical perspective on peace at the same time. So in my book, I work at all those levels to seek and try to achieve peace.
Oh, God. I would say amen, but I also like to, especially yesterday was International Day of Women's. I like to say our women also. And so I want to thank you both very much. Really, this was a very meaningful time in my life. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you both.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And also, I thank Tom for being the link that could bring us together.
It's a perfect man for the job. All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.